In early January 2014, 23-year-old Kim Pham exited a Southern California nightclub and made the fatal mistake of accidentally photobombing a group picture centered on Candice Brito and Vanessa Zavala. Brito and Zavala confronted Pham in a vicious rage, and the altercation quickly spiraled from vocal to physical as the two women began to beat Pham maliciously. Pham's boyfriend made an attempt to intervene, but the club's bouncer held him back, blocking him from the fight. Brito and Zavala beat Pham to death and were eventually charged with felony manslaughter after being acquitted for second-degree murder. In the Omsk village of Zhukova, located in the western parts of Siberia, in 2011, an altercation between a 13-year-old boy and his 17-year-old sister took place over who had possession of a television remote control. After repeatedly keeping him from his turn with the TV, the younger sibling fetched a high-powered hunting rifle and shot his sister in the face at point-blank range, killing her instantly. The crime was discovered after the sibling's mother returned home from work that day and reported it to police. Due to the boy's young age, he was unable to be charged as an adult and dodged severe criminal charges. While Facebook is no strange entity when it comes to inciting political or religious fights between its users, one user of the social media site took things to the absolute extreme over being unfriended by Billy Payne Jr. and his girlfriend Billie Jean Hayworth. After discovering she had been unfriended, Janelle Potter convinced her father and brother to break into the couple's home and murder them both. Payne and Hayworth were shot a number of times before the attackers finally cut the boyfriend's throat for good measure. In Florida, in January 2014, while watching the film Lone Survivor in a relatively quiet movie theater, retired police officer Curtis Reeves and his wife became involved in a yelling match with the man sitting in front of them, who was texting with his keypad sound effects turned on. The fight quickly spiraled to the point in which Reeves pulled out his handgun and fired deadly shots into the texting man and the person next to him. While both victims were rushed to the hospital, the texting man died from his injuries, and Reeves was charged with second-degree murder. It was later discovered that the man was texting his toddler son. Kelly Danaher's fatal mistake was throwing his wife a birthday party with music that was deemed too loud by his neighbor Raul Rodriguez. After the party had gotten underway, Rodriguez quickly ran to Danaher's house and confronted the man. After the verbal altercation, in which Rodriguez screamed that the music was far too loud for the neighborhood, the man pulled out his handgun and fired into the home, killing Danaher and wounding two other guests. Rodriguez, who claimed in court he always carried his gun with him and had a license to use it, was eventually charged with murder and locked away. Despite his claims, he acted justifiably in self-defense. In South Africa during the time of the 2010 World Cup, a 68-year-old father in a family of 4 declared he would be watching that day's soccer match, despite his wife and children's insistence that they wanted to watch a gospel program. After his wife refused to give him the remote control, the man walked over to the TV and changed the dial by hand, sending his wife, son, and daughter into a vicious rage that included beating and stabbing him to death. In a move of clearly rational political strategy, Dan White, the recently removed member of the Board of Supervisors of Mayor George Moscone in San Francisco, barged into City Hall and gunned down 2 men, one of whom was the man who had replaced him, Harvey Milk. His defense in court stemmed from the ludicrous idea that a recent junk food diet caused temporary insanity, and he had no conscious control of his murderous actions. Scarily enough, the defense worked, and White was given only 7 years in jail, of which he only served 5. However, soon after his release, White committed suicide and had no junk food to blame. An Aberkenfig, Wales teenager went to a gross extreme in order to win a bet in 2011. After Joshua Davies was dumped by his girlfriend Rebecca Alward, he repeatedly taunted and stalked her on Facebook and through text messages, often sending disgusting and threatening messages that he would end her life. After asking his friend, "What would you do if I actually killed her?" he got the sarcastic response of, "Oh, I would buy you breakfast." Just days later, Davies bludgeoned Rebecca Alward to death with a rock, then texted his friend, "You just may owe me a breakfast," and then was subsequently arrested, convicted, and given 14 years in prison. In 1979, a troubled young woman named Brenda Ann Spencer fired shots at the elementary school across from her house, striking numerous students and killing both the school principal and custodian. When police arrived and attempted to barge into Spencer's home, she was able to keep them at bay for nearly 7 hours before finally surrendering. Spencer told a reporter the reason she shot at kids that day was because she didn't like Mondays. In March 2003, 36-year-old Fergus Glenn attempted to make amends with his younger brother Craig by cooking him dinner. However, after Craig refused to thank his older brother after eating the meal, Fergus flew into a rage and repeatedly hacked his brother to death using a hatchet. While Fergus cites the meal as the final straw, it was clear he considered Craig's death a long time coming. Fergus is currently serving life in a New Zealand prison.